You ever walk into a place and just know you're being judged before you even open your mouth? Yeah, that happened to me, right there, with two little girls holding onto my hands like I was their entire world. And the crazy part? The woman standing at the door didn't even try to hide it. She looked at me, then at my daughters, and said, "I'm sorry, but you can't come in here with those children." Just like that, like we were stray dogs scratching at the door of her fancy little palace. I smiled, because what else do you do when someone decides who you are before you've said a word? And I said, "I have a reservation, table for 4, Williams." She rolled her eyes, muttered something about this being a fine establishment, not a playground, and I swear, for half a second, I almost laughed, because if she knew who I really was, she'd probably be kissing my shoes instead of blocking the door. But that was the whole point. I didn't want her to know. Not yet. And that's when she showed up. Kesha Thompson, 32. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, the kind of woman who walks like she owns every room she steps into. She checked the address on her phone, looked up, and saw the whole thing. Me, standing there like some broke single dad in old jeans, my girls squeezing my hands. And you know what she did? She marched right up to the hostess and said, "Is there a problem here?" No hesitation. No fake smile, just straight fire. The hostess tried to play nice. "Oh, you must be his date. I was just saying this might not be the best place for children." But Kesha wasn't buying it. "A place where black families feel welcome, you mean?" She shot back, and man, you could feel the whole atmosphere crack. I didn't even know her, and there she was, going to war for me. For us. Not for a rich man in disguise. Just a dad with 2 kids. That was the moment I knew she was different. We left, obviously. Found a little diner with plastic menus and ketchup bottles on the tables. The kind of place that smells like fries and childhood memories. I apologized, told her it wasn't much for a first date, but she smiled and said, "Actually, I prefer it this way. At least here people won't judge us by the color of our skin." You ever have someone say something so simple, so true, it just hits you? Yeah, that was one of those moments. But here's where it gets interesting. Kesha's sharp, like lawyer sharp. She noticed my watch, the way I handled myself. The fact that I casually canceled a meeting with Johnson and Associates over the phone like it was no big deal. And she called me on it. "You're testing me, aren't you?" she said, just like that. I didn't answer, not really, but she knew. She knew there was more to me than the broke dad act. But she didn't walk away. She stayed. And then, she laughed with my girls. Wiped juice off her shirt without a word of complaint, and when Emma whispered, "The lawyer lady won't leave like the others, right, Daddy?" Kesha just smiled and held her hand. No judgment. No questions. Just there. And if you think that didn't mean the world to me, you've never been a single dad raising 2 girls alone after losing the love of your life. But life isn't a fairy tale, right? There's always a twist. Mine came in the form of Patricia Sterling, Caroline's sister, my late wife's sister. Patricia thought she had the right to decide who I let into my life, who got to be around my daughters. She dug into my private life, hired people to follow me, even threatened to go to the press with photos of me and Kesha. "You're disrespecting Caroline's memory," she said, like love had to die with my wife. But Patricia didn't care about love. She wanted control. Of my daughters, of my company, of my entire life. So I played her game, but on my terms. Every insult she threw, every move she made, I documented it. Emails, phone calls, even bank transfers. And the day came when I sat her down in my office. Yeah, my office, the one with my name. Marcus Williams, etched in gold on the building, and I laid it all out. The recordings, the proof of her stealing $500,000 from company accounts. Her attempts to sell private photos of my girls. I watched her face crumble piece by piece. Family doesn't blackmail, I told her. And it sure as hell doesn't try to destroy innocent people because of their skin color. And Kesha? She was standing there, silent, watching the whole thing. Watching me turn from the clumsy dad who spilled juice on his shirt to the man who could crush someone like Patricia without even raising his voice. And when it was over, when Patricia signed the papers giving up any claim to the girls, I turned to Kesha and said, "I know I lied about who I was, and if that's too much for you, I understand. But everything we had, all of it, was real." You know what she said? She looked at me, then at my daughters, and she said, "You didn't pass the test, Marcus. You redefined it." 2 months later, we walked back into that same fancy restaurant. Only this time, it wasn't theirs anymore. I bought it, renovated it, put Kesha in charge of enforcing a strict anti-discrimination policy. The old hostess? She came in begging for her job back, tears in her eyes, and Kesha just smiled and said, "Everyone deserves a second chance. But here, we treat every customer like family. No matter what they look like or how much money they have. Justice, right? Feels good. But here's the part people argue about, the part one want you to think about. Patricia lost everything. Her money, her reputation, even her right to see her nieces. She's working as a receptionist now, living in a tiny apartment, finally tasting what it feels like to be judged by appearances. Some people say it's karma. Others say it's cruel. Me? I'm not sure. Because, yeah, I won. My daughters are safe. I have Kesha, who's now my fiancée. But at night, sometimes, I still wonder, did I do the right thing by destroying Patricia completely? Or did I just become the same kind of person I hate? Someone who uses power to crush people? What do you think? Was justice served? Or did I go too far? Tell me in the comments, because I want to know what you would have done if you were me. You'd think that after everything, Patricia signing those papers, Kesha sliding that engagement ring on her finger, my daughters finally sleeping without worrying someone might take them away, life would just settle, right? Yeah, I thought so too. But life's funny like that. Just when you think the storm's over, it throws you another wave. And this one wasn't about Patricia or the company or even me. It was about trust. And whether love can survive when every truth feels like a lie you haven't told yet. It started 3 weeks after we bought the restaurant. I was standing at the renovated entrance, watching families come in, black, white, Latino, didn't matter, laughing, eating, feeling welcome, exactly like Kesha wanted. She was glowing, running that place like she'd been born to do it. And I was happy, for real, not just pretending to be. But then it happened. This guy showed up. Tall, expensive suit, that fake confident smile rich men wear when they're used to getting their way. He walked right up to Kesha like he owned the place and said, "Long time no see, counselor." She froze for half a second, just half a second, but I saw it. She knew him, and the way he leaned in, the way he looked at her, it wasn't just professional. "Marcus," she said quickly. "This is Anthony Brooks, an old client." Client. Right. Except when Anthony looked at me. He smiled like he knew something I didn't, and he said, "You're a lucky man, Williams. You know that." Now, I'm not a jealous guy. Not really. But I've spent years reading people, testing them. And everything about Anthony screamed unfinished business. And maybe I should have let it go, but after everything I'd been through, I couldn't ignore it. Not when my girls were calling Kesha, Aunt Kesha, like she'd been in their lives forever. Later that night, when the girls were asleep, I asked her about him. Not accusing, just curious. "He's just a client," she said, sitting on the couch, avoiding my eyes. "I defended him on a corporate discrimination case last year." That's it. But something in her voice, that tiny edge, made me wonder, was she protecting me or herself? The next day, I called David. "Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Marcus, after all that talk about trust, you went back to investigating people? But listen, when you've had your heart ripped out before, when you've watched people you trusted turn out to be snakes, you don't just turn that part of yourself off." David pulled some strings. And by evening, I had Anthony Brooks' file on my desk. Turns out, Anthony wasn't just a client. He was a former fiancé. They'd been engaged for 6 months before Kesha called it off. No cheating, no scandal, just something she never explained. My chest tightened reading that, because she hadn't told me. Not once, not even in all those nights we talked about past relationships, fears, dreams. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted to. God, I wanted to just walk up to her and say, "Why didn't you tell me?" But something stopped me, maybe because deep down I was afraid of the answer. And then fate decided to throw gasoline on the fire. 2 days later, Anthony came back to the restaurant. Not for dinner, not for business, just to talk to her. I watched from the upstairs office as they sat at a corner table. He leaned in. She laughed at something he said, and I felt that old familiar anger rise. The same anger I'd felt with Patricia, with everyone who'd ever tried to take something from me. But this wasn't like them. This was Kesha, and she wasn't the enemy. When they finished, I walked downstairs, trying to keep my voice calm. "Everything okay?" I asked, looking right at her. She hesitated. Just for a second. "Yeah," she said finally. Anthony just wanted to apologize for the way things ended. And I swear I wanted to believe her. But the thing about trust? Once doubt creeps in, it doesn't leave quietly. That night, after she went home, I sat in my office staring at the documents I still kept locked in that hidden safe. All the tests, all the recordings, all the ways I protected myself from being hurt. And for the first time, I wondered, had I turned into the very thing I hated? A man who trusted nobody, not even the woman who stood up for me when she thought I was broke and powerless. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I chose to be honest. The next morning, I went to her apartment, knocked on her door, and when she opened it, I didn't waste time. "I know about Anthony," I said. She froze. "I know you were engaged to him." She didn't deny it. She just stared at me for a long moment, then said, "And you looked me up, didn't you?" It wasn't even a question. "Yeah," I admitted, because lying would have made it worse. I had to know. Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen from her before. Not anger, not hurt, but disappointment. "You had to know, Marcus? Or you just couldn't stand not being in control?" I wanted to explain, to tell her about Caroline, about Patricia, about every betrayal that had taught me to guard my heart like it was a treasure chest everyone wanted to steal. But she shook her head. "You talk about testing people, about wanting to find out who they really are when no one's looking. But when it comes to you, you don't give anyone that same chance, do you?" And damn it, she was right. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but she held up her hand. "I need time, Marcus. I love your girls, I love what we have. But I can't build a life with someone who's always waiting for me to fail some secret test." She closed the door gently, and for the first time in years, I felt completely powerless. That was a month ago. She hasn't called, hasn't come by the restaurant. Sophia asks about her every day. Emma still draws little pictures of Aunt Kesha holding hands with us. And me? I sit here, looking at my phone, wondering if I should call her or let her go. Because here's the thing, she's right. I built walls so high nobody could climb them. Not even the one woman who saw me when I had nothing. And now I don't know if I've lost her for good, or if love, real love, can survive the truth when it comes too late. What do you think? Should I fight for her, show up at her door, and tell her I'm done testing everyone, even myself? Or should I let her go? Because maybe she deserves someone who doesn't need proof before giving his heart?